For those of us who remember that weekend of peace and love in Woodstock, New York, it happened so accidentally. Because, in fact, I was just reading, again, Michael Lang, John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, and Artie Kornfeld all got together as a result of Roberts and Rosenman placing an advertisement in the New York Times, and it said, young men with unlimited capital looking for interesting, legitimate investment opportunities and business propositions. And they began talking about having a kind of secluded recording studio in upstate New York in the Woodstock area. And it evolved into getting Max Yasgur's pig farm and saying, well, let's have a festival. And you were there, Peter.
I was there.
Peter Faur, who was a local businessman, and included, by the way, as one of, I think, about 50 essays on what it was like for those who went. And for those of us who didn't go, we sometimes look and listen and say, I would like to have been there. Do you have those kinds of fond memories?
Well, I have great memories. And in fact, it's always a conversation starter. I tell people I was at Woodstock, there were just all sorts of questions, which I'm sure you have as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, having played the music and having reveled in the music for so long, because the music was extraordinary. Not just the music of that festival, but the music of those groups.
Right.
And by the way, did you know who actually was booked or considered going and didn't make it? Moody Blues. They worked in England at another festival instead. They were booked in Paris. Bob Dylan, there was illness in the family, and of all people, now here we're talking about Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Janis Joplin, Canned Heat, all of these people. Tommy James and the Shondells were booked.
We've been reading the same material the last couple of days, I can tell you. I knew that.
James and the Shondells. I mean, cute stuff, but with Woodstock. Tell me about how you found out that you were being considered for the book.
There's a service on the internet now called Harrow, Help a Reporter Out, and I subscribe to that service. You get 3 emails a day, and it's all about reporters looking for sources. And one day, some notice came across that said that this woman was putting together a book about Woodstock, and she was having trouble finding stories, so she was soliciting stories. I read that, submitted my story, and about 2 months later, I was told, you're in the book.
Along with a lot of other people who had individual, personal, reflective memories, and they were very, very dramatically different. You were started in Chicago.
Right.
Take us there.
I'm a native St. Louisan. A friend of mine from St. Louis called me. It was my first summer away from home. I was working at the Mars candy bar factory from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., so the night shift.
The glamour.
The glamour shift, yep. If my hair got too long, I had to wear a hairnet. So I kept it fairly trim because I didn't want to wear a hairnet. So I didn't look like a lot of the people at Woodstock.
But at heart, were you, and I use this word that I haven't used for years, at heart, were you a hippie?
A hippie? I had a foot in both camps. I guess I always have. When I was going to a Lutheran teachers college, so there was that straight side of me. But I loved the music.
Yeah,
Lutheran hippies, yeah. But I always loved the music.
Yes. And so you were in Chicago at the Mars Candy Bar Factory,
right,
with your hairnet on.
No, I didn't have the hairnet. Kept my hair short enough not to have the hairnet.
You didn't have to wear it.
Right.
Okay, excuse me. What caused you to decide, though, spending this weekend that I heard about in Woodstock, New York?
So my friend from St. Louis, who I went to high school with, who's also in the book, by the way, a fellow named John Northlake, gave me a call. We've been friends since we were 10 years old. Said, look, I've seen this ad in Crawdaddy magazine about this little festival that's going to be happening in Woodstock, and it sounds really good. Why don't we go? So back in those days, you might remember there was something called student standby.
Yes.
You could fly to New York and back for $50, which was a lot of money then, but, very manageable. So John flew up to Chicago. We flew to New York together, stayed with a friend of mine who lived on Long Island, and actually took a bus from the Port Authority bus terminal to Woodstock.
The closest thing we have right now today, on this Wednesday in 2009, is a whole bunch of people sitting at a Danny Harkins theater waiting to get into Harry Potter. I mean, the festivals like this just simply don't exist. And you're wondering why it is that it never happened again. They tried.
Yeah, they tried twice. They've had 2 different Woodstocks since then. And I think they did reasonably well, but it was nothing like this. You know, in some ways, you hear about events today called tweet-ups, where people will send out these messages on Twitter and say, let's all get together over here.
They get together in the cafeteria, they all stand up at the same time.
Something like that, yep. So, you know, I've been thinking about, I wonder if this was sort of the original tweet-up, you know, the word-of-mouth marketing.
Maybe, but now when you were approaching this farm, that the Woodstock City Council said, Max, under no circumstances, Max Yasgur, you farmer, you rube, don't you understand? These are city kids coming out, and they're hippies, and they'll bring dope, and there could be all kinds of problems here. And Max told them where to put that attitude and rented the farm out.
Right. You might remember that Woodstock originally was going to be close to Woodstock, New York.
Yes.
And the venue was moved because the people there got wind of what was going to happen and basically said, don't want it.
But how far away was the farm? How far away
from Woodstock?
Yeah.
It was about 60 miles.
Yeah, but the name is still there.
Well, the name was marketed as Woodstock originally, so even though they moved the venue, the name stuck.
So anyway, this is the part that always gets me. When you get there, thinking, as the promoters did, that it was going to be a nice, small weekend of peace and love, did you get to drive nearby, near the actual festival itself?
I was there, you know, I told you I took this bus from the Port Authority bus terminal.
Yeah.
It drove right up to the side of the hill.
The reason I asked that is because there were people who were stopped miles and miles and miles away because people were just abandoning their cars and walking or hitchhiking or getting there as best they could. I mean, the whole thing was just an unreal people experience. So we're going to continue to talk about Woodstock. In this particular case, Woodstock 50 far-out groovy, peace-loving, flashback-inducing stories from those who were there. There's somebody who was there. Jimi Hendrix.